Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials. All regular viewers will remember that I did a cooking video making some green tomato chutney recently, and I used some apples from a friend's garden as part of that video, and I actually got quite a lot. They were quite generous and just gave me a huge carrier bag full of full of apples from the tree, and I've got all of these left over. So what to do with these apples? What can we turn them into? Let's find out. Well, let's get started with our apple pie. And for apple pie, obviously, we need apples. So first job to get out the way is get these peeled and chopped up. I've got a bit of lemon there. It's about half a lemon juice. 3 or 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. Just to stop the apples going brown once they're exposed to the air. So I need to get cracking with these, get them in the sink, get them washed, get them peeled, and then get them on the board and get them chopped up into that bowl. So let's get cracking with that. So not the most exciting thing to see, but let's get these peeled off. I've got to try and do this as quick as I can, because these apples will quickly go brown, and I've got a lot of them, as you can see. It's not a handful of large apples. It's a sink full of apples of varying sizes. Okay, so I've got my apples. There's a bit of a variety there because the garden these came from, they have a few different trees. So you've got your traditional red apple, you've got a little pinky red apple, and there's a couple of green apples. But I need to get cracking with this because they will go off. I've got my half a lemon juice and I've got 40 grams of sugar, which I'll be putting in the bowl shortly. But you've seen me do this before. We're just going through slicing the apple. Just need to make sure I take out any stray bits of core. Normally I'm quite good with this. I don't normally get any of the core. I think it's because I'm in a rush. There's a little tiny bit there, which we don't want. So I'll just keep busying myself with this rather than boring you. I'll chop off the video and we'll come back to it a little bit later on. Okay, so we've got our apples. They are already starting to turn brown, so I need to get this lemon juice mixture in there and just work it in. Try and get all of the apples covered. Could have done with a bigger bowl really. But I'm going to be covering this in cling film, and the bigger bowl that I've got, unfortunately, has a bit of a wavy edge, so it doesn't get a decent seal. Look at this, there's apple going everywhere. At least you know it's not edited. It is real. mistakes and all. Okay, I think that's about done, so we'll just pop in our sugar, 40 grams. I'll just mix that in a little bit and then put the rest of the sugar in, so I don't end up with the sugar all on one bit. Okay, one final mix. You can see how quickly the apple starts to go brown, but hopefully that lemon juice now will stop that process. If we got it all, we have, I think. So all that remains is to get that covered with some cling film. And there we go. Little drum roll. So I'll pop that in the fridge, and that can be just sat in there, letting its juices flow. You can just pop this in as it is, but what I want to try and do is, when this comes out, I'll drain it, and there'll be some juice, really thick juice at the bottom, and I want to just do a little bit of a mixture with that, with some butter and sugar, just to thicken that up, and then I'll pop it back in, and hopefully that way, when we actually make the pie, it won't be soggy, if that makes sense. The juice will hold more because it'll be thicker. It'll be almost a syrup rather than a juice. But anyway, I digress. Let me get this into the fridge, and then we can set about doing the pastry. Okay, so it's time for the pastry. You've seen me do this before in quite a few different videos, so there's no surprises here. We've got 300 grams of flour. Just going to pop that into the food processor. I don't normally like using food processors. The truth is, it takes forever to get it out of the cupboard where it's buried behind loads of preps, because I have got a very small kitchen. And then afterwards, of course, you've got all that washing up to do. And top tip, the blades on these are incredibly sharp, so please do be careful. It's kind of another reason why I don't like using it. So we've got 150 grams of cold cubed butter is going in there. Try and even it around the bowl so it doesn't all become one big clump. And then final ingredient, I've got 40 grams of, again, just plain sugar, and again I'll kind of spread that around. So all we're going to do with this is pulse it up in the machine until it resembles breadcrumbs. Shouldn't take very long. Try not to overdo this. Don't know if you can see this or not. Let me just tempt fate by tipping it over. Can you see that? Just looks like fine breadcrumbs. And then final step, I've got, there's about 60 millilitres, which is about 4 tablespoons of cold water. And I'll just add this in as it goes around, and it should form itself into a dough ball all on its own. Keep an eye on it in case it needs a little bit of water, but I don't think it will. Famous last words. Once it starts to form a ball in the machine, you know it's done. Okay, that's our little dough ball, or pastry ball. So all I'm going to do with this is quickly chop it in half, so it's equal amounts, or as near as I can get to equal amounts. And then just form this into a little round. And then cover each piece in cling film. Don't you just hate when cling film doesn't play ball? So we're just going to wrap that up. Same with this one. Let's get it into a little round. The joys of live video. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. So again, just wrap that up. And we're just going to pop both of those into the fridge and leave them there for 30 minutes or so. And then we'll begin to roll this out and get the filling ready. Okay, our apples have been in the fridge a good hour actually. So they should have released some juice into the bottom, which I want to make that little sauce I was talking about for the apple pie mixture. So if I get these into this sieve, I don't know if you'll see, but the juice is running through, which is what we want. We want all of that juice to come out, because that is going to go into this jug. So I just need another bowl just to stand that in. And that's the juice we're talking about there. That's going to make a nice, quite thick sauce. Trying to get as much as I possibly can to go into there. Waste not, want not. There we go, every little helps. Okay, that can just sit out of the way. while we focus on making the juice. So I've got 40 grams of butter in here. Just going to drop that into this jug. And I'm going to pop that in the microwave, literally 30 seconds, just to warm it through and melt the butter. So, whilst that's mixing, I've got 40 ml of cold water. Now you should use corn flour for this, but unfortunately I don't have any, so I've got a teaspoon, which I'll just whisk in that jar. That butter sounds like it's done. Which it is. I don't know if you can see that or not. Don't put this in for too long. You don't want it to burn. You might find there's a little tiny bit, as you can see there, that hasn't quite melted, but the heat in the liquid will melt that. So into there goes our little water and flour mix, and then I just need to whisk that up. So what we need to do now is just pop this back in the microwave and do a 30-second blast, give it a whisk up, 30-second blast, give it a whisk up until it starts to thicken up. So I'll come back to you shortly. There we go. I don't know if you can see that on the video or not. Hopefully you can. But that's our little syrupy mix. I'm praying you can see this. I guess I'll find out in the edit. Okay, on to the next stage. Okay. So there's our apples. And go back into the mixing bowl. And then we simply pop our sauce back onto the apples. And then just mix that in. Give it a good stir round. Try and get all of the apple coated in the sauce. And we're almost ready for the pastry. As soon as I've finished doing this, I'll pop the oven on, and that can be warming up while I'm rolling out the pastry. I've already greased my baking tray for the pie. That's just cooling off in the fridge. And that does smell nice. Some people like to add cinnamon. You can if you want. A little tablespoon of cinnamon doesn't go amiss, but personally I'd just rather have the apple but feel free to do whatever you like. Okay, so that's our apples done. They can go off to the side. I need a quick tidy up. I'll turn the oven on. It's 200 degrees, or if you've got a fan oven like myself, it's 180 degrees. And I'll come back to you shortly. We'll get some pastry rolled out. Okay, I've got my pastry out of the fridge, my pie dish out of the fridge as well, just so I've got an idea of size when I start rolling out. So regular viewers will know that I do this on my hob. Might seem a bit strange, but I don't possess a large surface that I can do it on. I can't do it on the wooden surface because it would just wreck the wood. So it works. I've done it quite a few times, and it's not perfect, but improvise. Okay, let's get one of these out and start rolling out. Clearly we'll be doing this twice, once for the bottom of the pie and once again for the top. And all you're doing is just straightforward roll and turn to try and get, or to try and keep, a circular shape until it gets large enough to fit the dish. If it gets too large, then just alternate the rolling pin. So we'll stretch this out and do exactly the same with the top until we get to the size that we need to fit the actual pie dish. And we're not far away. So once we think we're about there, don't forget you're going down inside the pan as well, so it does need to be a little bit larger than the actual dish itself. Just try not to overdo it and get one side thinner or thicker than the other. I keep taking a little look to see. I don't think we're far off there. Just one more go. Yeah, I think we're about there. So just lift it onto the rolling pin and roll, and then that can drop onto the actual pie dish. Roll it over and just tease up the edges so that it gets down into the bottom of the dish. Hope you can see this on the video. Until it's tucked in. I think that's about it. Now we're going to need a little fork just to put some little tiny holes in the bottom like so. And then we can roll out the lid. So, same again, base is done, and all we're doing is rolling out exactly as we did before for the lid. And again, if you can't physically pick it up, just change the direction of the rolling pin. So rather than watching this again, I'll come back to you once it's rolled out and we're ready to fill the pie. Okay, pie base is done, pie lid is done. Time to start scooping out the apple. Try and dig into the bottom to make sure you do get juice, because it will have settled a little bit. Just evenly spread it out. Until you reach the level. Just slightly press it down. I think we're about there. You don't want it to be too high at the edge, but by the same token you don't want it to sag. Oops, just dropped a little piece there. I think we're about there. So all that remains now, we need the edge sealing, and all we're going to use is a little bit of cold water, just brush around the edge to help seal it. Don't get too carried away with this. You don't want it to be too wet. I can feel the heat of the oven stood here. And then pop the lid onto the pie. And then we're just going to crimp around the outside. Just to bind them together, and a knife and trim off the edge. And then one final little crimp, and just try and lift that crimped edge off the side of the tray, and that will just make it a little bit easier when it comes time to take it out, or we hope it will. Okay, we need a couple of slits across the top just to let the air out. Because this will brim and froth a little bit. And then we need a little egg wash. So I should have been prepared for this, apologies. It's a good job I've got lots of chickens, These are from today's haul down on the land, so I'll just quickly pop an egg into a glass. Give that a little bit of an egg wash across the surface. It'll just give it a nice bit of colour. Again, don't get too carried away with this and make it too soggy. Okay, and I suppose the pièce de résistance, I'm sure I had some sugar somewhere. Oh, there we go. It's just give a little bit of a light dusting. Onto there. So there's our pie ready to go in the oven. So oven's up to temperature. How's that looking? Let's get it popped in. And I'll come back to you shortly. Okay, so that's the pie in the oven, 180 degrees. If it's not fan assisted, then 200. And it's in there for 45 minutes. So we'll check on it shortly and see how it's getting along. Well, we're just over half an hour in, so very, very quickly take a quick peek. Wait for the steam to come out. How's that looking? Very nice. Another 10 minutes, just over, and we'll be there. Okay, the apple pie's been in at 180 degrees in this fan oven for 45 minutes, so let's get it opened up and take a little look. And there we go. I'll just pull the camera off the tripod, then you can get a little bit better look at it. Okay, so there we are. There's our apple pie. Looks very, very nice. Obviously needs to cool down a little bit. But I'll see if I can't get it onto a rack. I've got a little rack just here for it to cool down. I'm not sure if it'll pop out of that pie dish or not. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's a bit of a laugh and a joke. I also did a little miniature. So we'll pull that out as well. You might remember I've done this before when I've made stuff. If I've had spare pastry left over, I've just done a little bit of daft and made a baby pie. So let's get those cooled down and I'll bring you back later on and we'll take a little look inside. Well, lo and behold, they both came out. The little baby one and the big one, and to be fair, it looks very nice. It's cooked all the way around, even at the bottom. So we'll let that just rest on the that cooling rack. It'll be after I've had my dinner tonight, I think, before I can cut that open. But looking forward to that. That looks extremely tasty. Well, here's our apple pie and our little baby apple pie. Let's see if we can get this cut up without too much damage. And get a little piece put onto this plate. trying not to break the crust. And there we go. Just move this out of the way. Spin that around. I'll take the, I may as well slice this open as well. And you can see inside that one as well. Nice. You know what it needs though? I'll spin the camera around and we'll put the finishing touch on. So there's our apple pie. It just needs the finishing touch. A little bit of custard. Apple pie, cooking with your preps. Bon appetit. Well, that's it for another video on cooking with your preps. Free apples, windfalls from a family friend, and very nice they were in that apple pie. Hope you enjoyed that. Any ideas from you about cooking with your preps or foraged food? Do let me know in the comments section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.